I go, I invite you to come and pray with me right now. So feel free to just quieten your hearts and minds as we come before our Lord. Dear God, I bring this amazing group of young adults before you. I pray that though we are in a season of chaos and uncertainty, we know that you are here. I pray that as we are in these few moments of silence and just quietness with you, Lord, that we are able to come before you humbly and come before you honestly, Lord. In this season, it's really easy for us to get caught up in what we can control, especially because of how stressful the situation it is. And Lord, I just pray that you reveal to us any areas of our lives that we are striving to control, that we are striving to take the reins of. And whether we know it ourselves or not, God, please reveal those actions, those thought patterns, those attitudes, those feelings, those friendships, those relationships to us, Lord. Lord, we seek you to give you control of everything. And I just pray that with all of the young adults I know are with me now, that we are able to do that. We are able to come before you, give all of those aspects we know we are trying to take control of. Whether it's 2 or 3 or 100, Lord, I just pray that we are able to lay them all at your feet and that you're able to just take them from us, Lord. Lord, take the burden away, the burdens plaguing this group of young adults. Just take them away, Lord. Let them find peace in you. Lord, I pray that this season of hardship, of trials, of temptation, I pray that it breeds perseverance and steadfastness. I pray that it just gives our hearts just like this new desire for you, that it gives this new energy, that it revives us, Lord. And I pray that even though we are going through trials, even though we are going through what can be deemed not the most peaceful of circumstances, we find joy in you always. And it is an immense joy. It's not a small joy. I pray that we're finding an immense amount of joy in you, Lord. Yeah. Yeah, Lord. I pray that we come to you with all of these burdens. We come to you also, I pray, with our deepest, darkest fears, our shames, those things that are tempting us, our brokenness, Lord. I pray that we come to you with all of these. In Matthew 18:12, it says that you, or the shepherd, goes out to find the lost sheep, goes out to find the sheep that has gone astray, Lord. And I pray that as we are sheep who have gone astray, that whether it's been a really short amount of time or it's been a while since we've gone astray, I pray that we understand that it's you that is going to find us. Yes, we keep seeking you, Lord, but it is ultimately you who is going to find us, you who is going to save us, you who is going to bring us back home. And I just pray that that is an understanding that consumes us and that gives us hope, especially if we have gone astray. And if we haven't, I pray that that gives us hope that we will always be protected, no matter where we are, no matter our circumstances, that everything can and will be done through you. All our needs will be met through you, Lord. Especially right now, Lord, give us that peace and that understanding that you will provide for our every need. Not for the needs that we desire, not for the wants that we desire, not for the things that we believe we should have, but for what you know we need, and that it is provided in the time you deem right for us to receive it, Lord. And not in the way that we necessarily expect, Lord. I pray that we stop comparing how we expect things to happen to how they actually happen and turn out, Lord. And I pray that we stop comparing ourselves to other believers, Lord. We each have an individual relationship with you, Lord, and I pray that as a group of young adults, we know that yes, we are a community, yes, we are unified, but we are all given different gifts, and those gifts work together, and no two gifts are alike. But we all serve the same purpose, but in different ways, and I pray that our gifts are revealed to us if they have not been already, and if they have been, I pray that you help us to grow in those gifts, Lord. Lord, I just thank you for giving us the time and space to be together, and for providing us with all the resources we need to be with you and to be with each other in this time where we can't necessarily be in the same physical location. Thank you, Lord, for all you have provided and all you will provide, and thank you for saving us, for loving us, and for entrusting us with your purpose. In your name I pray. Amen.
Peace, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break at your name. Still, call the sea to still, the rage in me to still. the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus.
Hey everyone, thank you for taking the time to join us online this week for Echo Young Adults. I've been speaking to a few people this week and I've discovered that this seems to be around about the time that people are feeling like maybe they're ready to go back. Maybe they are ready to return to the normal way that we would do things. And you know, some of us, maybe we've actually been loving this time in quarantine. We've been loving just the time that it's created for us, whereas others, maybe we're ready to go back to work. We're ready to go back to uni. And I know that some of our young adults, many of you are uni students, and I know that some of you have only actually just started uni. Like you only just got started when all this happened and the way you were doing things have been interrupted. So I thought, you know, because I'm a generous guy, yeah, right, I thought maybe I would share with you a story. I would share with you a story and reminisce with you about my time, my experience of my actual first day that I was at uni, because I remember it vividly. I remember it because I got completely lost. Now, when I went to uni, when I did my bachelor's degree, I went to uni in the city, and I absolutely loved my time there. I loved the friends I made. I loved exploring the city and going out for food together and just all that. But something you need to understand about me is that I am absolutely terrible with directions. I'm just awful with directions. And it's something that I have just kind of had to accept about myself at this point, you know. There are so many stories that I could tell you that just start with that simple premise that I was on my own and I got lost. And this is one of those stories, you know. I think I need like a chaperone or something, you know. I need someone who is with me at all times, because if I know that if I'm out there in a big open space, I'm going to wander around and I'm going to get lost. And so that is exactly what happened here. To get to uni, I would have to get off at Parliament Station in the city. Some of you may know Parliament Station. It's the one which has those big escalators that you go up and you feel like you're ascending to heaven or something like that. So I went out those and I went up the stairs and I was on my way. And I shortly realized that lo and behold, I was lost. And I remember during this time, I began to get pretty frustrated and pretty upset, because it felt like if I can't even find my uni, if I don't even know where it is, well, then maybe tertiary education isn't for me. You know, maybe I need to unenroll or, you know, do something else with my life, because I don't know where I'm going. And by some miracle, and I honestly don't even remember, I don't even remember this part of the story, how it happened, but I guess God does miracles, right? By some miracle, I actually found my way to uni. But the only problem was that I was late. So I was late for my first day, I was late for my first class. And I remember it was in one of those like lecture theaters, you know, those amphitheaters, how they have this like really slanted room. And you walk in and you open this big heavy door and it's loud and obnoxious, and you just try and make yourself as small and shrink as much as possible, like so sorry, and just be polite and shuffle over to your seat. And everyone's there, and they see you and they're silently judging you. But when you sit down, maybe 5 minutes later someone else comes in and they're late, but suddenly you're with the crowd, so you're just like everyone else. You're going, oh, I can't believe that guy. Could you imagine this, that he'd be late? And so that was me. I was that annoying late person, and that was the first impression I had of going to uni. And I only learned later where I went wrong. And the wounds have healed with time, so I can laugh about it now. As it turns out, in Parliament Station, there's 2 different sets of stairs you can take. And I just went out the wrong set of stairs. So my set of bearings was off from the very get-go, right? But if I had just gone over to the other side, I would have been on my way. And I wonder if some of us at the moment, if we feel lost, I wonder if we feel like if only I could get to the other side. And I've been hearing a lot of conversation about this idea of the other side of the pandemic. And even if you're not a spiritual person, even if you're not a Christian, I've heard people saying that if one good thing, if something good can come out of this, it is that we can come out the other side better. And I've even heard, I've seen it on like Instagram, posts from like hockey players I follow, and they've been saying that same thing, how can you come out the other side better? And I love that. I want to think that way too. I know that that is the way we want to interpret this situation, and I love that. But I can't help but wonder if the other side is just some vague idea that we have that sounds inspiring, but really doesn't mean all that much. Because you and I should know by now that we don't actually become better unless if we learn from our experiences. We don't actually grow unless if we can learn from our experiences. And I know that you want to grow. I know that you want to grow because I have seen the Instagram post, right? I have spoken to people, and I know that everyone's turning inwardly, and we're saying that, how can this make me a better person on the other side of it? I know that you want to grow. But maybe sometimes we just don't know how. Maybe sometimes we just don't know how to grow. And so I want to offer you something that maybe you've heard before, and I just want to remind you that we don't actually learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. Because unless if we can make sense of this time, then the other side is going to look no different from this side. And in the Bible, we actually read a story where Jesus calls his disciples and he suggests that they go out by boat to cross to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. And you may have heard this story before, even if you're not a Christian. It is actually a very popular story, a very famous story. And so I want to, if you would allow me, I want to read it together with you now from Mark chapter 4. It says that day when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat, so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" So he got up, he rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" And they were terrified, and they asked each other, "Who is this that even the wind and the waves obey him?" And so this is a very famous story First of all, because it's wild, right? It is bananas. Like, Jesus calms a storm. Who does that? And so what happens in this situation is that Jesus, he's in a time in his life and in his ministry where he is actually gaining momentum. He is becoming kind of known as a public figure. And so he would go out and he would teach and preach to large crowds of people. And what would happen is after that the large crowds would they'd follow him around. And so potentially he was at a point here where he was exhausted, where he just had to get away. And so he suggests to his disciples, let's go over to the other side. And off they go, and they are hit by a furious squall, or in other words, a furious storm. And so apparently in the Sea of Galilee, due to certain geological features on either side of the body of water, it was susceptible to these sudden and severe storms. And so that's what happens. They find themselves in a storm. And they ask Jesus a question that maybe you and I can resonate with. They say, don't you care? Don't you care? Don't you care that we're going through this? And you know what? Maybe you're not even a Christian. Maybe you're not even a Christian. Maybe you've grown up in a Christian family or something like that. And maybe you don't even consider yourself a praying person, but you find yourself in the storm and you're praying. Maybe you're watching this video, right? Maybe you find yourself asking that question, Jesus, do you even care? And you know, these disciples, we don't know exactly which disciples it was that went on the boat with him, but chances are that it was the fishermen of the group. This was actually their profession. They were fishermen by trade, so that was their area of expertise. So chances are that they were happy to let Jesus sleep and rest because they knew what they were doing. They had the skills. But it didn't matter how skilled they were. It doesn't matter how skilled we are. As soon as the storm hits, they turn to Jesus. And isn't it bizarre that they're surprised? Isn't it bizarre that they are surprised that the storm has hit? Because even if they're not fishermen, they should know by now that the Sea of Galilee, it can be quite stormy out there, right? And they should know by now, well, maybe you and I should know by now, that the only thing that's certain is that life is uncertain, right? That's what they say. The only thing that's expected is that life is unexpected. But we're surprised when this storm hits. And so I want to tell you that if you have received a version of Christianity that says that if you come to God, that life is going to be easy, well, let me tell you something. These guys had Jesus in their boat. These guys literally had Jesus in their boat. Jesus was with them, and they still had to go through the storm. Even if you're doing the very thing that God called you to do. Because whose idea was it to go over to the other side? It was Jesus' idea. Even if you're doing the very thing that God called you to do, you still have to go through the storm. And you know, maybe you're not a Christian, and maybe you're with me at the moment, because you're like, yeah, reality check, Christians. Like, just wake up, guys. Of course, life is hard. That's the reality of life. But guess what? You actually do the same thing too. Like, I don't know who you are exactly watching this video, but chances are, I wouldn't be surprised that if you were to be honest with yourself, you would discover that you do the same thing too. Because each of us has a certain script. We have a certain way that we expect our life is going to pan out. And when things don't go according to plan, we're surprised. And so what I want you and I to know is that with or without Jesus, whether you're doing life with Jesus, whether you're doing life without Jesus, storms are a reality in life. But here's what I think is special, and here's what I think is unique about doing life with Jesus. It's that Jesus is actually able to calm the storm. It seems like in one moment, he's just sleeping, and he's just some dude who is just socially tired, and he just needs to rest. But then he wakes up, and we're reminded that this is God himself. And he has complete authority and complete power over the natural world. And he commands the storms to cease. And when we speak about this story, that's often the place where you like to leave it at. And why wouldn't you? Because Jesus calms a storm. That is this epic crescendo. That is this big moment, and it's entirely satisfying to leave the story there. But the reason I wanted to share this story with you this week is because I was fascinated by the idea: what happens on the other side? What happens on the other side? Because remember, Jesus had somewhere that he wanted to go. And so we read in the very next chapter, from Mark chapter 5, it says that when Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. And so an impure spirit, that's kind of like a polite way of saying that this guy was demon-possessed, that this guy was afflicted by demons who had taken residence within him. And it says that when Jesus got out of the boat, and I kind of wonder, because I don't know the exact timing of this, but I kind of wonder if that literally means when Jesus got out of the boat. As soon as Jesus got out of the boat, on the other side, immediately another challenge was waiting for him. And so maybe what you and I need to be reminded of when we're dreaming about the other side is that the story continues on the other side of the storm. The story continues on the other side of the storm. And for some of you, I want you to take that as an encouragement. Because maybe you've been going through the storm and it's been hard. And I want to encourage you that your story can continue on the other side of the storm. But I also want it to be a challenge. Because we're dreaming of happily ever after, and we're dreaming of the other side, when maybe there's something this side of the other side that's valuable, that we can learn in the storm. Because those disciples, I don't know exactly what they interpreted of that time, that Jesus calmed the storm. But let me tell you that if they actually reflected together on that time, they may have learned a completely profound lesson that would have absolutely changed the way they do life, the way they relate to Jesus. Because Jesus was able to demonstrate his divinity in the storm. He was able to perform a miracle in the midst of a life-threatening situation. And then on the other side, in Mark chapter 5, what did he do? He did the same thing. He was able to continue to perform miracles amidst life's challenges. And he actually healed that demon-possessed man. He actually cast those demons out of that man. And so when we go through storms in life, when we go through challenges in life, it can actually glorify. It can actually bring glory to Jesus and demonstrate his divinity and his power. And often when we are hit with a storm in life, we kind of ask this question: what can I do differently? What can I do differently that will change the outcome? And that's a good question. And I ask myself that question as well when I find myself facing a challenge, because I think that I want to feel control. I think that I want to feel like there's something that I can do that is going to somehow influence the outcome, right? But maybe a better way of looking at things is actually to go back for a moment and to go back to the root of things and to actually be reflective so that we can learn valuable lessons, that we can grow this side of the other side. And so there is just 4 simple questions that I want to offer you that I know that some of you have used in the past and I've used in my life that can really inspire reflection for you. And it goes like this. What's happening? Why is it happening? What might God be saying? And what am I going to do about it? What's happening? Why is it happening? What might God be saying? And what am I going to do about it? And these are questions that you can ask yourself honestly. And you can reflect on, and you know what, you can actually do it. You can do it with others. You can do this in a group of people, because we learn. God's designed us as social beings. We actually learn from each other when we collaborate with each other. And maybe someone will say something that you hadn't thought of, and they'll bring an insight into your life that you hadn't thought of. Or maybe God will reveal something to you as you're communicating this, as you're going through this reflective process. He will clarify and confirm something for you. And so you can ask yourself these questions. What is happening? Why is it happening? What might God be saying? And what am I going to do about it? And I want to encourage you. Don't miss out. Don't miss out on that. But actually take that time, because God might be trying to say something to you personally. And I don't know what that is. I literally don't know. Like that's between you and God, right? But God might be trying to reveal something to you personally. He might be trying to grow something in you and mature something and develop something in you during this time. So don't shortchange it. Don't skip out on it and miss out on it and just try and rush to the other side. You don't have to, we don't have to love it. We don't have to love going through the storm because no one does. But maybe we just accept it for what it is, and we embrace what we can from it, that God can actually reveal something to us this side of the other side. Because let me tell you, the story continues on the other side of the storm. And we don't want life to get away from us. We don't want to miss out on hearing something so profound that it could be life-changing. And so I pray that would be the case for you. That even if you're not a Christian, that there would be something in this time that is so profound and so meaningful that you get to the other side and it wasn't wasted. The story continues on the other side of the storm. God bless.